We live in a world in which the content of democracy has vanished and society is dominated by a strange, meaningless notion of freedom. This is a story about how we arrived at this upside-down world. Western politics today is dominated by political figures and ideologies that are effectively indistinguishable and interchangeable. Even the illusion of choice has evaporated. Irrespective of the parties or leaders Western voters elect, governments implement increasingly neoliberal policies as all sides of this artificial debate squabble to occupy what journalist and political commentator Tariq Ali described as the extreme centre.
What we've been witnessing, together with the neoliberal economy, is a contraction of politics in the sense that I've been arguing now for some time that what we have in Western politics is neither the extreme left nor the extreme right, but an extreme centre.
This extreme centre is characterised by a devotion to laissez-faire capitalism and to what's euphemistically described as the market, the ensuing deregulation and privatisation that this entails, an increasingly militarized and belligerent foreign policy dominated by NATO and aligned with the interests of the United States, an increasingly overbearing, authoritarian, even totalitarian, militarized civilian state, and paradoxically an obsessive preoccupation with a universalized, extremist interpretation of individual liberty.
And this extreme centre encompasses both centre-right and centre-left, which agree on fundamentals: waging wars abroad, occupying countries and punishing the poor, pushing through austerity measures. It doesn't matter which party is in power, either in the United States or in the Western world. Things, carry on like before. There's continuity from one regime to the next.
What was once the socialist-inspired left and the conservative-inspired right of the political spectrum now compete only in terms of who can espouse the most extreme neoliberal policies, or who, in other words, can occupy the extreme centre. What has happened is the entire political structure in Western societies has been subjugated to the interests of a financial elite. The collapse of the political spectrum has been made possible by a historically unprecedented alignment of interests both within and between the ruling economic elite, the deep state, the media, and the democratic parties. This was made possible in part by the deregulation and privatization of the 1980s and 90s that facilitated the unprecedented consolidation of wealth, power, and media control. Waves of deregulation did away with decades of legislation intended to constrain the emergence of monopoly power, allowing the complete takeover of society by a tiny handful of the ultra-wealthy. And privatization helped consolidate these monopolies, taking the levers of economic power out of the hands of government. At the same time, there was an unprecedented assault on the traditional left. The destruction of organised labour both discredited and defunded the left. Outsourcing of industry fragmented and divided the working class, replacing it with a dispossessed and disenfranchised urban peasantry. And finally, the collapse of the global socialist movement created an ideological vacuum that the new elite was quick to fill with a newly created political class of functionaries and ideological apparatchiks acting on their behalf and in their interests.